Treehouse, Book Number 33, Merlin Mission, Carnival at Candlelight, by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 1, A Book of Magic. Dawn was breaking in the Frog Creek woods. Jack saw the light shining up ahead. He ran toward it. He ran so fast he couldn't hear his feet hitting the ground. He couldn't feel the frosty winter air. As Jack got closer to the light, he could see the magic treehouse at the top of the tallest oak. A girl and a boy were looking out the window. The girl had dark, wavy hair and sea blue eyes. The boy had troll's red hairs and a big grin on his face. As the two kids waved at him, Jack felt incredibly happy. "Jack, wake up!" Jack opened his eyes. His sister Annie was standing beside his bed. She was wearing her winter jacket. It was barely light outside. "I just had a dream about the treehouse," she said. "Really?" Jack said sleepily. "I dreamed we were running through the woods at dawn," said Annie. "And when we got to the treehouse, Teddy and Kathleen were there waiting for us." Jack sat up. I just had the same dream," he said. "Meet you downstairs," said Annie. Annie left Jack's room. Jack jumped out of bed, put on his glasses, and threw on his clothes. He grabbed his winter jacket and his backpack. Then he slipped quietly down the stairs and out the front door. Annie was waiting on the porch. The February air was chilly. Frost sparkled in the grass as the sun rose over the Frog Creek woods. "Ready?" asked Annie. Jack nodded and zipped his jacket. Without another word, he and Danny hurried up the street and headed into the woods. They ran through the long shadow of early morning, between the bare winter trees. Then they stopped. The treehouse was back, just as Jack had seen in his dream. It was high in the tallest oak tree, shining in the cold morning light. "Wow," breathed Jack. "Dream can come true." "Yep," said Annie. "Teddy, Kathleen." No one answered. "I guess only part of this dream came true," Annie said sadly. She grabbed a rope ladder and started up. Jack followed. Annie climbed into the treehouse. "Oh, wow," she said. What is it?" said Jack. "They're here," said Annie in a loud whisper. Jack climbed in behind her. Their friends, Teddy and Kathleen, operations to Morgan Le Fay, were sitting under the treehouse window. Wrapped in heavy woolen cloaks, they were both fast asleep. "Hey, sleepyhead," said Annie. "Wake up!" Kathleen blinked and yawned. Teddy rubbed his eyes. When he saw Jack and Danny, he gave them a wide grin and leaped to his feet. "Hello," he said. "Hello," cried Annie. She threw her arms around Teddy. "We both dreamed you were here." "Ah, then our magic worked," said Teddy. "Kathleen suggested we sent dreams to let you know we were here, and it seems our magic sent us to dreamland as well. But now we are all awake," said Kathleen, "and I am very glad to see you." She stood up, drawing her cloak around her. Her blue eyes sparkled like sweet seawater in the dawnlight. "I'm glad to see you too," Jack said shyly. "Are you taking us on another Merlin's mission?" said Annie. "Not exactly," said Teddy. "Merlin has a most important mission for you, but this time we will not be going along." "Oh no," said Annie. "What if we need our magic to help us?" Teddy and Kathleen looked at each other and smiled. Then Kathleen turned back to Jack and Danny. "Morgan thinks you may be ready to use magic on your own," she said. "Really?" said Jack. "Yes," said Teddy, "but Merlin is very conscious about sharing magic power with mortals. Even with two as worthy as you. He is also worried of magic being used outside the realm of Camelot. Nevertheless, Morgan had convinced Merlin to let you prove yourself. You will be tested on 4 missions, but we don't know any magic, said Jack. Remember what I told you on our last adventure, said Jack. Said Teddy. If we all work together, anything is possible, said Annie. But you just said you weren't coming with us. That is true, said Kathleen, and that is why we bring you this. She reached into a pocket of her cloak and pulled out a small handmade book. She gave the book to Annie. The cover of the book was made of rough brown paper. Written on it in neat, simple handwriting was the title, 10 Magic Rhymes for Annie and Jack from Teddy and Kathleen. You made this for us? Said Annie. Yes, said Kathleen. 1 line of each rhyme is in Teddy's language, and 1 is in mine, the language of the Seal People. Annie opened the book to the table of contents. She and Jack scanned the list of rhymes, and Jack read some of the entries aloud. Fly through the air, make metal soft, turn into dogs. Annie giggled. They're so cool, she said. Let's all turn into dogs. Not now, said Kathleen. You must use these rhymes very sparingly. There are only 10 rhymes in the book, and each can only be used once. They were meant to last for 4 journeys. 4? Said Jack. Aye, said Teddy. Merlin had agreed that if you can use our magic wisely on 4 missions, he will teach you the secret that will allow you to make magic on your own. Oh boy, said Annie. Jack put the book of magic rhyme in his backpack. So, where are we going on our first mission? He asked. This research book from Morgan will tell you, said Teddy. He took out the book and handed it to Jack. The cover showed bright colored cities surrounded by water. Jack read the title aloud. A Visit to Venice, Italy. I heard of Venice, said Annie. Last year, Aunt Grell and Uncle Michael went there on vacation. Aye, 'tis a city that has long welcomed travelers, said Teddy. But you and Jack will travel to the Venice of 260 years ago. What will we do there? Asked Jack. Merlin has prepared careful direction for you, said Teddy. He pulled a letter out of the pocket in his cloak and gave it to Jack. Read this when you get to Venice. Okay, said Jack. He put Merlin's letter and Morgan's research book into his backpack. Wait a minute, said Annie. If we take the treehouse to Venice, how will you guys get back to Camelot? Teddy and Kathleen smiled and held up their hands. They each wore a ring made of pale blue glass. These magic rings belong to Morgan, said Kathleen. They will take us home. Remember, Teddy said to Jack and Danny, follow Merlin's direction carefully. If you prove yourself to be a wise and brave helper, he will call for you again soon. Kathleen nodded. Goodbye now, she said to Jack and Danny. Good luck. Kathleen and Teddy raised their glass rings to their lips. Together they whispered a word too softly to be heard, then blew on the ring. Before Jack and Danny's eyes, the 2 young sisters began to fade into the cold morning air. In an instant, they had disappeared completely. They're gone, breathed Jack. I guess it's time for us to go too, said Annie. Jack took a deep breath. Then he pointed at the cover of the Venice book. I wish we could go there, he said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. Carnival. Annie laughed. Jack opened his eyes. He and Annie were wearing purple and pink outfits with huge ruffled collars. On their heads were funny hats. On their feet were red slippers with big balls. Who are we? Annie asked. I don't know, said Jack. He didn't feel like a wise and brave helper in his red slippers. He felt stupid. Together, Jack and Danny looked out the treehouse window. They had landed in the small tree inside the wooden garden. The sky was gray. Jack couldn't tell if it was morning or evening, but the air felt damp and heavy, as if the storm was about to break. I guess this is Venice, he said. Let's check our books, said Annie. She opened the research book and read aloud. Today, the city of Venice is one of the most popular tourist spots in the world. It lies the lagoon of the Adriatic Sea. Instead of roads, Venice had waterways called canals. People glided along the canals and followed boats called gondolas. A man called the gondolier stands the back of the boat and uses the long oar to propel the gondola through the water. That sounds like fun, said Jack. Yep, said Annie. She closed the book. Let's go. Wait, said Jack. We don't even know what our mission is yet. He took out Merlin's letter and unfolded it. He read aloud. Dear Jack and Danny of Frog Creek, your mission will require great patience and a bit of magic. The Grand Lady of the Lagoon is in terrible danger. The only one who can help you save her from disaster is the ruler of the sea. To locate him, follow these directions. When waters rise beneath the moon, visit the Grand Lady of the Lagoon. To find out where you need to go, seek out the painter named Tipolo. At midnight, 2 men will tell you the time. To the top of the tower, hurry and climb. The king of the jungle will carry you there, not over land, but high in the air. An angel of gold will show you the way to the sea by night and home by day. And Jack pushed his glasses into place. He said. I wonder who the Grand Lady is, said Annie, and why do we need to save her? I'm wondering lots of stuff, said Jack. What about the king of the jungle? We're in city, not a jungle. And what about the angel? And let's just take one thing at a time, said Annie. What are we supposed to do first? Jack looked back at the letter and read, When the waters rise beneath the moon, visit the Grand Lady of the Lagoon. So, let's start by finding the Grand Lady, said Annie. She handed down the treehouse ladder. Jack put Merlin's letter into his backpack, along with Morgan's research book and Teddy and Kathleen's book of magic rhyme. Then he climbed down the rope ladder and caught up with Annie. Jack and Danny walked over the pebbly path as the sky darkened. Good, thought Jack. It's night. He didn't want anyone to see him in his silly outfit, especially the red slipper with the ball. That must be the way out, said Annie. She led Jack to the wooden gate in the garden wall and pushed it open. Jack and Danny stepped through the gate onto the quiet, empty walkway. Next to the walkway was a narrow lane of water. I guess that's the canal, said Jack, and that must be a gondola, said Annie. She pointed to the long curve of black boat rounding the corner. In the last light of day, the gondolas were gliding silently up Candlelight toward them. Yikes, whispered Annie. There were 2 people in the boat. The gondoliers, and the passenger. Each wore black coats, cloaks, white gloves, and a ghostly white mask. The mask had a long, pointy noses shaped like birds' beaks. The passengers sat in the middle of the boat, holding the lantern. The gondoliers stood in the back, pushing the long oar through the water. "They look a lot weirder than us," said Annie. "No kidding," said Jack. "Hello," the passenger shouted. The person's voice was muffled behind the white mask. "Do you need help?" "Yes," said Annie shouted back. "Can you take us to the Grand Lady of the Lagoon?" "Yes, of course. She is back that way," answered the masked passenger. "Come." "Great," said Annie. She grabbed Jack's hands and pulled him over the gondola. The gondola rocked a bit as she and Jack climbed aboard and took seats between the gondolier and the passenger. The gondolier pushed the gondola away from the landing. His long oar made soft splash in the water as the boat moved up the canal. Jack cleared his throat. Excuse me," he said. "Why are you wearing bird mask?" "For Carnival, of course," said the passenger. That is why you are wearing clown's costume, no?" "Oh, yeah, sure," said Jack, as the gondola slid through the canal. Jack sucked the research book out of his backpack. "Oh boy, a carnival," and he whispered to Jack. "I hope it has a roller coaster." "I don't think they had roller coaster 260 years ago," whispered Jack. Jack looked up Carnival in the index. He found a page. Then he and Danny silently read together. For many countries, Carnival had been the most famous yearly festival of Venice. For carnivals, people disguise themselves as anything they want to be: rich, poor, male, female, young, and old. All were equal during Carnival. "Look, that's us," whispered Annie. She pointed to the picture of the Carnival costume with the white rippled collar and the red slippers and bows. "Yeah, and that's them," whispered Jack. He pointed to the picture of the person dressed in the black cloak and the white mask with a bird beak. Jack closed the book and put it away. The gondola people didn't seem so weird anymore, but he still wondered why Grand Lady was in terrible danger at Carnival. As the boat glided around a bend, Jack caught his breath. He saw a dozen of gondolas rocking on choppy water of the wide open canal. They were all decorated with ribbons and flowers. Candlelight from the lanterns danced on the dark, rippling water. "Look, that must be Carnival over there," said Annie, pointing. In the distance, thousands of candles twinkled along the shoreline. Sounds of laughter, clapping, and shouting floated over the water. "Hold on tightly," said the masked person in front of the gondola. "The tide is high tonight." And the gondola joined the feet of the boat heading toward Carnival. The wind picked up. The wave grew taller. Jack and Danny held onto the side of the boat. Jack heard a faint rumble of faraway thunder. He saw zigzag flash of lightning in the distant sky. "Is the storm coming?" he wondered nervously. "Is the storm part of the disaster that's going to happen to the Grand Lady of the Lagoon?" "This is going to be fun, isn't it?" said Annie cheerfully. "Sure," said Jack. He tried to shake off his worries, and as the wind and the tide helped push the gondola toward the twinkling candle of Carnival. Chapter 3. The Grand Lady of the Lagoon. The gondola glided toward the landing at the edge of the canal. As the gondolier tied up the boat, water was sloshing from the canal onto the wide walkway filled with Carnival goers. The gondola reached her gloved hands toward Annie and helped her out of the boat. He then held out a hand to Jack. When Jack grabbed it, he was surprised what the gondola's hands felt small under the white glove, like a kid's hand. As soon as Jack had stepped out of the boat, the gondolier untied the rope, pushed off from the landing, and began rowing away. "Bye, thanks," called Annie, the true stranger in the white bird-masked wave. Jack and Danny watched the gondola disappear over the choppy waters. Then they looked back at the shore. The Carnival crowd was parading up and down the wide walkway along the canal. "Hey, look," said Annie. "There's a bunch of people dressed like us, and like two people in their gondola." Jack saw lots of black clothes, bird masks, funny hats, and ruffled collars. He also saw people dressed as chickens, pirates, and knights. None of the costume people seemed to mind water spilling over the edge of the canal, soaking their boots and slippers. As Jack and Danny stared out at the crowd, a distant bell began to ring. The bell rang 9 times. "I guess it means it's 9 o'clock," said Jack. Just then, another bell began to chime. Jack counted again. This time, 10 chimes rang out. "10?" said Jack, puzzled. "So what time is it? 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock?" "Don't worry about that now," said Annie. "I think I see the grand lady by the lagoon." "Where?" said Jack. Annie pointed to the tall woman at the edge of the pyramid. She was wearing a black mask. She wore a pile of jewelry, a white wig, and wide hoop skirts. Jack and Danny moved toward the lady. "Excuse me," said Annie. "Hi." The lady looked at Annie. "Hello," she said in the deep man's voice. "Whoa," said Jack, stepping back. Annie laughed. "You're a man," she said. "Of course," said the man, "but for Carnival, I am a very beautiful lady, no?" "We're looking for someone called the Grand Lady of," started Annie, but before she could finish, the giant kitchen grabbed the man's hand and pulled him away into the crowd. "Oh, brother," said Jack, looking around. Lots of people were dressed as the grand ladies. "How are we supposed to know who to visit?" "Maybe it's time to use one of Kathleen and Teddy's rhymes," said Annie. "No, we should save our rhymes," said Jack. Then let's just skip visiting the grand lady of the lagoon for now," said Annie. "What's the next thing Merlin tell us to do?" Jack looked at Merlin's direction and read aloud. To find out where you need to go, seek out the painter named Tripolo." "Good, that's clear," said Jack. "Let's see if Tripolo is in our research book." As a noisy crowd celebrated around them, Jack pulled out the book. He stood near the lantern and looked in the index. "He's here," said Jack. He turned to the right page and read. Tibialo was one of the greatest painters of Venice in the 1070s. He painted bright, beautiful oil paintings for palaces and villas. If the guy's so famous, people must know where he lives," said Annie. "Excuse me," she called the clown walking by. "Can you tell us where the painter Tibialo lives?" "Near the church of St. Felix," the clown said. "Thanks," said Annie, "but you won't find him home now," the clown called over his shoulder. "He is Mildan, painting." "Where's that?" shouted Jack. "One over the day's ride on horseback," said Clown. Then he disappeared into the crowd. "Said Annie. "Do you think Berlins want us to go to May, and we don't have time, said Jack. I think we have to skip to Pialo too. Yeah, said Annie. Hey, maybe we should just skip all this stuff and try to find the ruler of sea on our own. Our letter says he's the only one who can help us from the Grand Lady. I don't know, said Jack. In his letter, Roland tells us to be patient, but Annie was already calling to the pirate passing by. Sir, do you know where we can find the ruler of the seas? What? Shouted the pirate. The ruler! Do you know where he lives? Yelled Annie. In the palace of St. Mark's Square, said the pirate. Where's that? Annie called, but the pirate had disappeared into the crowd. I looked up St. Mark's Square, said Jack. He turned the page of their book until he came to the map of Venice. Oh, cool, he said. Jack loved maps. Okay, let's see, said Jack. We're here. He pointed to the walkway along the canal on the map. And we want to go to the St. Mark's Square. He pointed to another place on the map. It's really close. Yeah, and it's look like everyone else is headed there too, said Annie. Come on. So if we go this way, said Jack. He traced their routes in with his finger. Come on, Jack, called Annie. Jack looked up from the map. Annie was already walking with the crowd. Jack closed the book and hurried after her. Soon they came to the huge open square. Wow, Jack said breathlessly. St. Mark's Square was filled with candlelight and magicians. Acrobats balanced on tightrope. Boxers boxed in the ring. Knights fenced with swords. Clown walked on tall stilts. Raced wheelbarrow and tried to catch live eel in your mouth. All around the square were candlelight buildings. Venice is beautiful, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. He looked back at their book. He found the illustration of St. Mark's Square. Jack read the description of the building. The watchtower of St. Mark's Square is the tallest building in Venice. The weather vane one on top once helped sailors by showing them which way the wind was blowing. Jack looked up. I can barely see the weather vane up there, he said, but I think it's pointing north, so the wind must be blowing from the south. What about the ruler's palace? Where's that? Asked Annie. Jack read on. The clock tower is one of the beautiful towers in the world. On top of the tower, the bell is struck every hour by Jack, skip to the ruler's palace, interrupted Annie. Please. Okay, said Jack. He read about the palace. The Palace of Venice ruler is one of the most splendid sculptures ever built. It has a great hall where as many as 2,000 nobles once met to discuss city matters. It also holds the city's grand prison cells. Above the palace door is the sculpture of St. Mark's showing the book to the winged lion. There's the palace door, said Annie. Jack looked up from the map. Annie was heading toward the huge door with the sculpture of the man and the winged lion above it. Jack closed the book and hurried to catch up to her. The guards were standing by the palace door. The guard wore a uniform and the held reply. Wait, Jack whispered. Is he a real guard or is just a costume? I'll find out, said Annie. She walked over to the guard. Excuse me, sir. Is the ruler of Venice inside the palace now? Beyond, clown, the crowd said grumpily. But it's important, said Annie. We need to talk to him about something. I said, be gone. The guard growled. I am tired of Tired of clowns wasting my time." "She's not really a clown," said Jack, coming forward. "We're on a mission. We go, both of you, or else," roared the guard. He held up his revolver. "He's definitely not wearing his costume," thought Jack. "Okay, sorry," said Jack. He and Annie moved away from the palace entrance. "What a grouchy guy," said Annie. "He'll never let us in," said Jack. "Maybe it's time to use one of Teddy and Kathleen's rhyme," said Annie. "Maybe we should turn into dogs. The guard wouldn't mind a couple of dogs." "No," said Jack. "We have to save our rhymes." "Well, how will we get inside?" Annie asked. "Patient," said Jack. "Remember." Before he could finish, Annie broke in. "Hey, look! The two clowns on stilts were dancing around the guards. One grabbed the guard reflace and tossed it into the other." "Hey!" the guard yelled. "Give that back." "Now's our chance," said Annie. "Quick!" She ran to the entrance and slipped through the door. "Oh, no! Oh, man!" said Jack. While the guard chased after the two clowns on stilts, Jack rushed to the doorway of the palace and slipped inside too. Chapter 4. Rats. Jack found Annie standing behind a column in the lantern-lit courtyard. The courtyard was quiet and empty. "Everyone in Venice must be at Carnival," said Jack. "I just hope the ruler is home." "Yeah, we'll ask him if he knows the Grand Lady of the Lagoon," said Annie, "and we'll tell him he has to help us saving her from the terrible disaster. Jack looked at his map of the palace. Several rooms were labeled ruler living chambers. "I guess that's where he lives," said Jack. "We have to go up some stairs called the giant stairs to get there." "The giant stairs?" said Annie. "Yeah," said Jack. "Listen to this. These stairs are called the giant stair because they were guarded by two large statues of God on Roman mythology. Mars, the god of war, and Napron, the god of the sea." "Cool," said Annie. "Let's go." Jack and Danny hurried down the passageway that ran along the courtyard until they came to the wide staircase. On the either side of the stairs were giant marble statues of strong-looking men. "Mars and Neptunes," said Jack. "This is it. Come on." Jack and Danny quickly climbed the giant stairs. At the top, Jack looked at the map again. "Now we turned right and headed for the golden staircase," he said. Keeping an eye out for more guards, they crept down the hall until they came to the fancy staircase under the gold ceiling. "There it is," said Jack. "Let's climb up." He and Annie hurried up the golden staircase. When they got to the top, they froze. Another guard was lurched against the wall by the stairs. His eyes were closed, and he was snoring softly. Jack motioned to Annie, and they tiptoed past the sleeping guard to the entrance of the ruler's living chambers. Jack glanced at the map. "This is it," he whispered. The door was open. Jack and Danny peeked inside. "Knock, knock," Annie said in the soft voice. No one answered. They stepped through the doorway. A fire blazed on the hearth. Overhead, many candles burned brightly. The dancing flames cast shadows on the marble floor and the carved gold ceiling. "I have a feeling the ruler's not here," said Annie. "Maybe we should leave." Jack looked at their book. "Wait, the next room is a map room," he said. "Let's just take a look." "Okay, but we better hurry," said Annie. Jack led the way into the map room. Colorful maps hung on the walls. In the middle of the floor were two huge globes. Jack sighed. "I love this room," he said. "Look, more lions," said Annie. She pointed to three paintings of winged lion on one of the walls. Why Why are there lions with wings everywhere? Jack looked up winged lion in their book. He turned to the right page and read, "The winged lion is the symbol of Venus. Represented in painting and sculpture all over the city, the lions stand for strength on both land and sea." As Jack and Danny looked back at the lion painting, they heard footsteps. The grouchy guard and the sleepy guards rushed into the room. "Hi, we're looking," began Annie. "There they are, the thieves!" the sleepy guard shouted at the grouchy guard. "I told you I heard no voices." "We're not thieves," said Annie. "We were just looking for your ruler to ask for his help." "She's right," said Jack. "We have to tell him that." "Won't admit your crime, eh?" said the grouchy guard. "The worst cells are reserved for criminals like you. Move." "But we," started Annie. "Move," shouted the grouchy guard, raising his rifle, pointing to the door. Jack knew there was no use arguing. He took Annie's hand and led her out of the ruler's living chambers. The two guards walked behind them, pointing guns at their back. "To the end of the hall and down the steps," growled the grouchy guard. Jack and Danny walked quickly down the hall and then down some steep, narrow steps. They moved through the low stone corridor, then the guards close behind them. "Over the bridge of life," shouted the grouchy guard, "and be sure to slip when you cross it, because you won't be coming back for a long time." Jack gripped Annie's hand as they crossed the covered footbridge to another building. Once inside, they started down the lantern-lit hallway filled with puddles. Jack's shoes felt swishy and soggy as he splashed through the water. "Help!" shouted the grouchy guard. Jack and Danny stepped in front of the heavy wooden door. The grouchy guard opened the door and pushed them into the dark, damp cell. The door slammed shut. Jack heard the heavy metal bolt clang into place. Then he heard the guard splash away down the hall, arguing with each other. The prison was eerily quiet. It was hard to breathe in the cells. It was hard to see, too. Only the dim light of the hallway shined faintly through the barrel window. Under the window was the wooden bench. "What now?" Annie asked in a small voice. For a moment, Jack couldn't answer. She was stunned. He was stunned. A minute ago, they'd been the bride in Carnival. Now they were locked in the dingy prison cell. I'll look in the book," he said. Jack felt shaky as he opened the research book. He moved close to the barrel window to read by the dim light. He looked up "prison" in the index. He found it and read aloud. The prison cell at ground level in the palace, well, where they called posy, means well or pits. They were dank, airless, and filled with rats. Even the government eventually decided they were too cruel. Jack heard a squeak from the dark corner. He stopped reading and looked up. He heard a squeak again. The hair went up on his neck. Was that a rat? He wondered. Where's that a rat? Was that a rat? Said Annie. The squeak came again from the dark corner. Then the squeak came from another corner. Jack heard rustling again along the wall and more squeaking. "Oh man," he breathed. "There were rats everywhere." "I think it's time for magic," said Annie. Yep, said Jack. "Definitely." He kept an eye on the dark corner while Annie reached into his backpack and pulled out Teddy's and Kathleen's book. Annie read from the table of contents. "Make the stone come alive. Make metal stop. Turn into ducks." Jack looked up. Annie looked up. "Are rats afraid of ducks?" she asked. Forget ducks, said Jack. Go back to make metal stuff. That's what we need to do. You read the rhyme, and I'll try to pull the bars apart. Okay, good, said Annie. Jack jumped onto the wooden branch near the barrel window. The squeaking grew louder. Jack reached up and felt the iron bars. They were cold and hard and very, very solid. Jack couldn't imagine banning them. The squeaks were getting louder. Jack gripped 2 bars in the middle of the window and took a deep breath. Read the rhyme, he said. And he read aloud. Iron or copper, brass or steel, burn on saw, blow on bill. As Annie finished the rhyme, the bars began to glow. They grew warmer in Jack's hands. I think it's working, he cried. Holding the bars tightly, Jack pulled in opposite directions. Slowly, the glowing bars began to stretch and bend. Jack pulled till there was an opening large enough for Annie and him to fit through. We did it, he cried. Great, hurry, the rats are coming, cried Annie as she jumped on the bench. Jack heard a chorus of squeak from all sides of the cells. He looked down. He saw the shadowy shape of dozens of rats. They seemed to be sniffing the air above the window. Go, go, Jack cried to Annie. Annie squeezed between the bars and jumped down into the hallway. Jack followed her. He hit the wet floor and crumpled into his feet. Come on, he cried. Jack and Danny slushed down the watery hallway. At the end of it, they nearly bumped right into the 2 guards. Jack and Danny kept running. Hey, the grouchy guard shouted, running after them. He reached for Jack. The other guard tried to catch Annie. Jack and Danny dodged away from them. The guards crashed into each other, falling to the floor. Jack and Danny kept running. They dashed across the bridge of light. They ran through the corridor and up steep stone steps. This way, cried Jack. He and Danny tore down the hallway, heading for the golden staircase. Hey, the guards yelped from far behind. Jack and Danny bounded down the golden staircase 2 steps at a time. They flew down the stairs and down the giant stairs. They ran past the statue of Mars and Neptune and charged down the long, open passageway. Finally, they dashed through the entrance of the palace and escaped into St. Mark's Square.